earlier today, we talked about love beckons, right?
Yes.
And then we moved from love beckons over to when maybe love isn't beckoning to meet our therapist.
Yeah.
And she talked about relationships and
Correct.
all this stuff,
Because
right?
love always doesn't mean happily ever after, I guess.
Yeah, I agree.
I mean, yeah, there's
Agree.
nothing wrong, but it doesn't always end up being together forever, right?
Yes.
And you know what's the most stressful thing or the most difficult thing in a breakup or a divorce or separation? Yeah,
Yes,
money.
right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
money
Yeah.
is security. Money means everything to a woman or a man, and that's the most difficult thing to handle. I would say next to kids. Kids also, but money also. I think if you weigh, and that's why today we have Imran, who's a certified financial advisor, and so glad to have you on the studio here today and talk about what you think is the right approach towards handling money in a case of a separation.
First of all, thank you for having me. It's a
Thanks,
pleasure to be here. See, divorce is an emotional thing. In a short term, there is no winners in divorce. In the long run, of course, you go your ways. But physically, it's emotionally very challenging for both the parties. In the hand of the couples, to make it ugly or to make it sweet. Most of the time, what happens, both of them want out, but they don't know how to get out. And this uncertainty creates like a rift among them. So the first thing is they need to be educated on what process or what steps they need to be taking.
Right. I mean, what is the right approach, you tell
Well,
me?
the thing is, they need to keep the emotions on the side and they need to work towards a healthy approach. First of all, they need to work on a budget, that what's going to be happening. I know this is the last thing on the mind, the finances last thing on the mind.
Right.
But the first thing they should be like, while they're going through this process of divorce, what was the budget going to be? Who's going to be paying what? What's going to be happening? So if they lay out these certain things, they'll be perfect. First, they'll need to find an experienced divorce lawyer and a certified or a financial planner who is very good in divorce cases. The reason being, because sometimes people say, oh, it's expensive, I can look up online and do all these things. But these people pay off in time, because then they have everything lined up for them. Pension accounts, retirement accounts, houses, how they need to be divided. Keeping that in mind, also what happens is, like, let's say taxations. And the last year of the marriage, who's going to file what taxes? So all these things, what property is going to be sold and what property is going to be kept. So these are things that, who owns how much money.
But as much as we don't want to talk about this subject, because we don't want to see relationships breaking up, but the learning is important, and knowing that what mistakes do you see in your practice commonly couples make while they're going through this divorce process, and then 5 years later they're like, oh, I shouldn't have done it at that time.
Right, as I said, laying out everything in open communication, laying out all the assets and working with professionals, because that is a huge impact that our people, mostly community, they do not want to work professional. They say, oh, I can look up on internet and do it. I think that's the mistake where they're making. They should not be doing that.
I think typically, though, isn't there a lot of animosity at this time in many cases where the breakups are not mutual? And so during that animosity, they're out to get each other. And she says, I'm going to get him, and I'm going to take him for everything. And he says, well, I'm not going to let her get me, and I'm not going to let her get anything. So how does that sort of fit in when you see this in your practice? Does that happen? I mean, do you see people just trying to get at each other, and you're kind of in the middle saying, whoa, take it easy, guys. They're throwing punches at each other.
That's an excellent point. I see that all the time. See, what happens is we need to keep our emotions on the side. I know this is a tough thing to do. It's easy said to be done. But the thing is, if you want a healthy divorce, if 5 years down the road, 10 years down the road, do you don't want to regret what has happened? So this is the way to do it. We are all adults here, need to calm down, keep our emotions on the side, put all the finances on the table, work with the professional again, as I said, and create a healthy path. You have kids also. If you have kids, then it makes it even more complicated.
Right.
Because then the kids.
How do you do the kids separation when it comes to finances?
Well, you have to first get on the right track, that how many kids, what ages they are in, how much they will be needing to spend, like if there's alimony going to become, who's going to be coming from. So these
after sorting these all things about who's going to take care of what, I mean, do you suggest or would you advise that someone comes to a third party who maybe both of them don't know at all to decide the
like a mediator?
division?
Like a mediator.
Right, exactly. That's what the lawyer on both sides, they work on that things. The financial planners, they work on the side. So this is their team. Basically, their team is created. It's just like a process. So if you have a healthy team, if you have an educated team, that will make this all thing easier.
But typically, you see that each person has their own representation,
Yes.
right? So How does that then work? Because if you have your own attorneys and they're all sort of working for their clients, is that similar with the financial planners as well? Are there two sets of planners then? I mean, are you interfacing with the planner on the other side sometimes?
What happens is typically there's a one financial planner, but lawyers are typically two.
Okay.
So what happens, because they've been working with the family for a long time, so they know the finances, and by profession, by legal, we have to disclose everything what's there. So it is always recommended to go to the financial advisor which you are working with. So that's how we come in the picture there, and that's how we kind of lay everything out on the table and decide from there.
Tell me the top 3 things that one should keep an eye on.
One is, of course, the finances, that where all the money is, where all the assets are. It should be out in the table. The second thing is they should be aware of the debts, who owns what and what happens in case of a divorce, where's things going to go. The third thing is, if they have the kids, it's very important that who gets what, and because it's not something that after it's done, you're going to regret it, as you said, 5 years down the road, I should have done this, I should have done this. So if you have kids, you need to be taking care of the kids too in the beginning part here,
right.
Laying out a plan. Fourth is also staying on if you don't have the kids, taxation, because taxation, people typically, and females are emotionally very attached to homes. So if they have a home together, she wants that, right? So she needs to make a choice that, okay, is it an educated choice? These days, most of the houses are down the hill.
Right.
Or should she be getting that house or not? Or will she be able to, or he will be able to afford that house or not? So is it better to take it into the divorce court and just separate it right there, or keep it? So all those things is individually based, but the thing needs to be out there.